What is going on, guys? Gaston right here, back at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the potential leak of Canon introducing an APS-C camera in 2020-2021. That is pretty good news, and I think they're going to be introducing an RF mount type of camera. I'll tell you why, coming right up. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Gaston right here, and if you're new to this world, I do gear reviews, tutorials, and behind the scenes, so if you enjoy the content that you see around the channel, consider subscribing and hitting the notification button for more content like this one. Now, the rumor actually sparked back saying that Canon may actually be announcing that camera around 2020 or 2021. Now, we think that this camera is going to be most likely an RF type of camera. Could also potentially be that they're gonna do an M50 Mark II, but I mean, now unless they were working on the M50 Mark II for a long time, I don't think it makes a lot of sense for them to introduce it right now. Now, Canon is definitely committed to the RF. Now, we have seen the R, the R5, and the R6, and also we have seen how far Canon has taken their technology when it comes to video spec, out of focus, and also the evolution of the Canon body. Now, designing an APS-C camera makes a lot of sense for Canon. Number one, Canon is probably one of the camera manufacturers with the utmost APS-C bodies out there. Most of these bodies are actually kind of like prosumer, consumer type of body. You know, we don't have a great APS-C glass from Canon. Usually the great glass comes from third-party manufacturers like Sigma, for example. But they actually have a camera that was very, very popular among wildlife photographers and nature photographers. That camera is the 7D Mark II, a camera that was released at about 2014, and that camera was $1,800 when it was released. Now, you can still get that camera for $1,400. So that tells you that that camera hasn't gone down in price that much and that there's still a following that love that type of body. Now, that camera was a DSLR camera. So this means that this is the perfect time to introduce kind of like a variation from the 7D Mark II into a mirrorless format, you know, like a high-end mirrorless APS-C camera that also has an RF mount and that also is going to have a special design RF glass for APS-C. Now, Canon can do this and probably they can do a better job than anyone else. Most likely better than Sony because I'm not happy with any of the APS-C glass from Sony other than the 16-55, but we'll talk about in another video. Now, Canon actually has pretty small glass that is portable, super powerful, and fast. I'll give you an example. The 35mm f1.8 macro, also that is one of the most affordable glass that you can get for the RF system. They're also working on a 50mm that's about to come out anytime soon, the 50mm f1.8 macro as well, image stabilized, and the 35 is also image stabilized. And the 85mm f2.0 also macro image stabilized. So imagine having that capability to design that fast glass yet compact and image stabilized with the same properties of the RF mount. So I think that they can knock it out of the park. Now, this actually could spark that wildlife photographer realm of consumers that love that type of body and a mirrorless body, but also this could be one of the most ideal content creation cameras, something that is actually small, with small glass, super portable, lighter than full frame cameras. And we are assuming that this camera is also going to have great video specs. So some of the specs that I am actually dreaming that this camera is going to have or forecasting this camera to have is number one, we're gonna have a sensor that is going to be at around 20 to 26 megapixels. So yeah, it's going to be a low resolution sensor and this camera is going to be great in low light capabilities. When it comes to video specs, chances are that we are going to have in this camera 4K, 24 and 30. I doubt that we're gonna have 4K 60 and an APS-C body, and remember the problems that they're having with the R5 and R6 heating up. Now, going with an APS-C sensor, they're gonna be able to mitigate that heat because you're talking about a much smaller sensor. They also have smaller sensors than the cinema camera for a reason. Now, the other thing is that this camera most likely is going to record at 10-bit in all the 4K modes. And also we're gonna have full HD up to 240 frames per second. This camera is going to have microphone input. This camera is going to have headphone jack, and we're gonna have the very angle screen with touchscreen capability. So if Canon actually manages to put all that stuff together in an APS-C body and they manage to price it at around $1,500 and they actually release it with incredible APS-C RF glass, they're gonna be ahead of the competition right now because if you look at Sony, for example, they do have APS-C lenses, but none of those lenses are actually serious. I mean, guys, the 16mm f2.8, the 20mm f2.8, the 35mm f1.8. I mean, those lenses, I own them, they're terrible. And some of the lenses are actually really good for the APS-C system from Sony. Actually comes from Sigma, like the 16mm, the 30mm, and the 56mm f1.4. Now, when you talk about Fuji, for example, they made most of their money from the APS-C cameras, and they have also a lot of APS-C cameras. But Fuji glass is slow, outdated, and some of the faster glass is actually pretty bulky and pretty heavy. So I'm assuming that Canon, if they are smart, they are going to try to push the RF. This is also going to try to steal a lot of shares from Sony and Fuji when it comes to APS-C. So what do you guys think? Do you think that Canon is going to be introducing an RF APS-C type of camera? Actually, that would be so nice if they do it. Or you think that they're simply going to introduce an M50 Mark II, call it a day, and that is not going to be so exciting. So guys, drop your comments down below, and as always, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content, hit the notification button, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.